Well, good evening again. So tonight I'm here to talk about animal shelter renovations. So first a question, how many people have been to our animal shelter?
How many years ago?
Doesn't matter.
Well, I haven't been since they did the landscaping and improved.
Oh, okay.
So,
Okay.
it's been a while.
Okay. Well, the main thing is I wanted you to also think about the animals. When I put this presentation together, I realized after I turned it in, if the engineer and me came out, you know, I'm thinking about the building, I'm thinking about the issues, so the pictures that come up will be about the issues in the building, and I realized I didn't put up any good pictures of our dogs and cats. You know, which, you know, someone else would put up there and, you know, hopefully try to make a connection with you all. So think about your pets, or think about the Athens-Clarke County community pets, and just each slide where I don't have a picture, just picture a pet for me. Anyway, really, Keith?
You always mess up. You broke it, Dave.
Again. Okay, so the shelter's out on Buddy Christian Way, right across the street from the airport. The main part of the shelter was built 30 years ago, and it had 30 dog runs with it, so it's starting to show its age. Well, it's been showing its age. In the SPLOST 2011 program, we added an extension to it. It was open, that extension was open in 2016. What we did, the main purpose of that extension was to add a cat shelter, because cat services were in another building down the street. But at the same time, we squeezed in 6 more dog runs, a dog quarantine area, some outdoor interaction pens, and a few other amenities inside. But it was mainly for the cat shelter. So the original 30 dog runs we didn't touch in this project. We just didn't have enough money. I want to point out that our shelter is licensed by the Georgia Department of Agriculture. That's a requirement under state law and regulations that shelters are licensed by them. As part of that license, they come out and they inspect us usually a couple of times a year. We have to pass those inspections to keep our license. Last year, it was about in the summertime, I met the Department of Ag inspector out there. And while we've always had a good rapport with Department of Ag, and pretty much always gotten good reports, as we walked around and we talked about things, when we got out to the dog shelter, he was noting that because of the age of the building, that problems are starting to show up. And these problems are going to make it harder and harder to keep the shelter clean, keep it sanitary, and keep it safe for our pets. So listening to him, I was like, okay, we really need to get something done. So like I said, the 30 original dog runs are 30 years old. They're constructed of concrete block and chain link fence. The cleaning chemicals we use, which is mostly bleach, you wouldn't believe how fast that corrodes the fencing. The bars, you know, chain link fence, you have the rods around the sides. They just slowly disappear with time. I've seen them where there's actually pieces just missing and we have to go out and replace them. It's not the ideal material to be using. The concrete blocks have a lot of cracks with pieces missing. Those blocks are down low, and I'll show you some pictures. But that's where things can get in there, where we can't get the cleansers and cleaners in there to sanitize it, keep it clean. Sometimes we start getting critters, bugs, that start getting in there. And also because of the way it was constructed, this last one here, we can't really get the dogs completely out of their runs all the time while we're trying to clean the floors with bleach. So it's a risk to the dogs. We try to get them up, but they don't always want to stay off on a little platform. So there's a potential of exposing the dog's feet to the bleach. This is a picture of one of the dog runs taken from the outside looking in. These dog runs are partially indoors, partially outdoors. This part is outside. So there's an overhang roof up here to protect it from rain, but otherwise it's open to the air. This wall, behind it, the dog can go through this opening and get on the inside. The inside we can keep warm in the wintertime. At night we get the dogs in there where there's a door that slides down here. But you can see the concrete block is aged pretty bad. When these were built, the concrete block only came up a couple of blocks, and then it was a chain link. But that meant all the dogs could see each other. So we've recently added some plastic sheeting in there to try to isolate the dogs from each other. It's better for the dogs. But when we're trying to clean, it'll come out a little clearer in other pictures. We have to get the dog on one side or the other and close this door in here so we can clean the outside, move the dog around, clean the inside. We do that cleaning every single day. It's necessary to make sure we don't get disease spread. You know, a lot of the animals that come into the shelter, we don't know where they come from. We don't know what their health is. We don't know what they've been exposed to. So cleaning happens every single day. This is a picture from inside. Now, the inside area is not open to the public. When the public goes out in views, they walk around the outside and see the dogs on the outside. But this is just an example of the old way it was built with chain link. We have some of them where the chain link, these are gates, don't come close enough together, and small dogs can squeeze through, so we've added some other little pieces. So you can see where it goes outside here. These are just a couple more pictures, again, showing the condition. You can see down here, I've already replaced this piece that had totally rusted out or corroded out. You can see some pictures here of the concrete block, how it's broken up. We try to put epoxy in there and fill it. It just doesn't last. The bleach just gets everything. Well, note out here, this is a drain. This is on the outside where people walk around. This drain runs the length of the kennels. When we clean, we push everything from the inside to the outside through here. So everything that we're cleaning out, solids too, all go into this drain, which goes to a septic system. But it all has to come outside. So that's the problem when we're cleaning the inside. The dog has to be on the outside, but we're trying to push everything out. That's just the way the building was built 30 years ago. Didn't have drains on the inside. I did see one little piece of a dog. I mentioned earlier that we added 6 dog runs during the last project. This is one of the 6, and I just wanted to highlight here the difference in the way the drains are done. This is that door that comes down that separates the inside from the outside. So we have drains on both sides. So we can close it, keep the dog on one side, wash the other side, get all the cleaners out, flush it out with water and get it down the drain. And it's much safer and healthier for the dog. So the purpose of this project is to renovate and reconstruct the 30 original dog kennel runs with better materials to improve the ability to maintain safe and sanitary conditions and to maintain compliance with regulations so we keep our license. The project will also provide some cosmetic improvements to the front office and public spaces in and around the shelter that we didn't deal with the last project. We just didn't have enough money. But the main thing is to improve the shelter, in this case, particularly the dog kennels, because the cat side's all new, for the health of the animals. I mean, they're the community's pets. Probably most of you have pets, you know what pets mean to us. It means very much to the entire community too. So we want a good shelter. Also, just making it look better also attracts more people. It'll help improve our adoption rates, which is very important. So it's just with the age of the facility, it's long overdue. And I would encourage you to come out to the shelter. Our shelter there's staff there 24. There's staff there 7 days a week, because obviously we have to take care of the animals. We're open to the public for drop-in visitors every day except for Wednesday and temporarily Sunday. Because of staffing shortages, we just don't have enough staff to be open normal hours on Sunday right now. But on those 2 days that we're not open for drop-in, Wednesdays and Sundays, staff is still there. We still handle things by appointment. We just are trying to discourage too many people coming in so the staff can get their job done of cleaning and caring for the animals. But I encourage you all to come out to the shelter and visit. Any of those other times. It's open from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. And if you need to come on a Wednesday or Sunday, I can make that happen. But just stop by. Whether you like dogs, you like cats. Every once in a while we have something else there. Earlier this week we had a potbelly pig. So sometimes we even get a peacock. We get all kinds of interesting things, loaded with stories, but just to give you an idea of the flow that goes through the shelter. And typically in the last few years, we've taken about 2,300 animals through the shelter every year. Every year. And most of them go home or go to a new home.
Oh, wait, you're not finished. Aren't supposed to ask.
No, the last thing I was just gonna say is, just the project just asking for $559,000. Maybe one of your smallest requests, certainly my smallest request.
Is it a no-kill shelter?
That was my question.
You know, that's what you always strive to be. One of the challenges with a public shelter is we have to take any animal that someone brings to us. Now, we do restrict it to, you have to be a Clarke County resident if you want to surrender an animal to us. But otherwise, we have to bring all animals in. And we also deal with sick, injured, aggressive, vicious animals, you know, that can't be adopted out, where the most humane thing is euthanasia. So a lot of no-kill shelters are private shelters. So one way they get to what they call no-kill is they just limit what comes in the door. Now, saying all that, I said we had 2,300 animals go through in the last year. We look at euthanasia rate, the one that we prefer to look at, we talk about of adoptable animals. So those things that just can't, those animals that just can't be adopted, whether they're wildlife, that are seriously ill, seriously sick, injured, or they're just not safe to be adopted. We look at just adoptable animals, which is the vast majority of them. Last year, we euthanized 10.
How many of the
What-
others? Because people are gonna ask.
Of the others, the unadoptable, it was 300. But that's out of, we have no choice with those. So that's out of the 2,300, so 2,000 were adoptable, 10 out of that 2,000, that's it. 0.5%.
There are no-kill shelters. It's kind of like how they say food, they'll call a food trans fat free and it can still have some trans fat.
Yes.
Isn't it the same with like no-kill shelters? Like a no-kill shelter still can euthanize under a certain percent and use that label.
Yeah, and it varies a little bit, it all depends on the message they're trying to get out. Part of it is image and messaging. And that's one thing we're going to be looking at over the next year. I have a position that started last year, we call it volunteer coordinator, but we're going to be looking at the opportunities to improve our brand, basically. A lot of places, we don't call them pounds anymore. Well, it is the animal control division, but we try to talk about our animal shelter. A lot of places are changing names to things like the animal welfare services. So trying to improve the image and the brand, because no one wants to euthanize an animal, even where it's the most humane thing to do. I have 9 full-time people and 10 part-time people who work at the shelter or with the field officers, and they all have to share that duty. And each time they do it, it takes a little piece of them. We have a lot of turnover because of that. They're all animal lovers, and it breaks their heart when they have to do it.
So what are the new runs, what kind of materials are they made of? You said there would be higher quality material?
Well, those were made out of also concrete block,
Uh-huh.
but the only chain link is the actual gate. So
Okay.
the concrete block went all the way up. We have opportunities to put better sealant materials on them these days.
So they would last longer?
But I also want to explore some other options. There might be some composite or plastic type inserts that might be workable. Yes, sir.
Do you have numbers on how long the average animal stays on average in the facility?
I do not have that number. Well, I'll tell you though, if we bring in a stray, our ordinance requires us to hold it for 5 days to see if an owner shows up. After that, we're free to adopt it out. During those 5 days, we accept applications for adoption, so we try to get a head start on it. Otherwise, we try to keep animals as long as we can. It's not uncommon for us to have an animal for 8 weeks. just because no one has come forward and wanted to adopt it. As long as we have space in the shelter, it gets to stay. Although it's not the best environment. We're trying to start a foster program right now also where if we have a dog or a cat that maybe it needs to recover from a little illness or something, and so rather than keeping it in the shelter, which is not the best place for it before it becomes adoptable, we try to get places, for people that will foster the animal, get it back to good health before it gets adopted out. So we try.
And not to try to gild the lily here, but like, do you see, is the current state of things perhaps keeping people from wanting to come out and visit to adopt? Is it in such a state that people don't want to deal with the conditions to come out and even see what animals they can adopt?
No, I wouldn't say that. But just when something's more attractive, it attracts more people. We usually get, pretty good compliments. The Department of Ag has always said we've always done really well. Some other neighboring counties have built newer shelters, so if you're comparing yourself next door, it's like, ours is getting old now. But
Any other questions? Thank you, Dave.
so for our community's pets. Thank you.